Heritage Park Hunters. Now, as we all know, with a victory, Handy Quacks would have broke a Dynasty record with 11 consecutive wins. But Hunters' team finally lived up to its potential, scoring the most points in Week 3 with 140, led by Matt Schaub's 30 and Ryan Matthews' 26 points. So Coach Palucha will have to just settle to be tied for that record with Coach Phil Tamulus by having a 10-game consecutive winning streak, which is certainly very impressive. Now, the next barn burner of a game was the glorious Riverdale Scoopers versus the goddamn Iron Dogs. Both teams scored 1 touchdown each. Wow. 106 combined points. Believe it or not, as pointed out in the power rankings, not a Dynasty record. The record actually belongs to Negro Damas and Coach Johnny C's fucking amateurs from last year's Dynasty 7, when they were able to mount a combined score of 100. Nonetheless, it was a pathetic showing by both myself and the Iron Dogs. I will gladly take the victory, however, 54-52, and I will go to 2-1. I will take it, and I'm not looking back, bitches. And going over to the South Riverdale Division, first game, Negro Damas versus Soul Glow. Now, Soul Glow's Whitey West Welker just completely went nuts, as we probably all saw. He tied for first in fantasy players this week with 34 points, and Soul good performance, pretty much all around. I mean, Whitey was the man leading the way, but LT and Adrian Peterson, they had good games. Even Jason Hansen, the kicker, scored 16 points, which is always wonderful if your kicker puts up anything in double digits. So Soul Glow improves to 2-5 against Negroes all time, and he also improves to 2-1 while Negroes drops down to 1-2. Now the next game was the Bubba Gump Shrimp versus the Rockdalian Senators. Now, say what you want about Coach Bubba Palucha. You know, call him a fucking dork, dink, douchebag, call him an asswipe, a dingleberry hanging off of a homeless man's twat. I mean, say what you want about the guy, but he's a solid fantasy coach. He started the Ravens defense versus the Rams over the Eagles defense versus the Giants, which basically was what won him the week. The Ravens defense ended up scoring 23 points, whereas the Eagles defense ended up scoring 3 points. So obviously that's a difference of 20 points. How much did he win by? He won by 15 points. So right there, that decision of starting the Ravens D over the Eagles D was huge. And it got him a victory over the freaking pathetic Senators, who drops down to 0-3. And speaking of the Senators, as mentioned in the power rankings, they have a 2-31 record in the breakdown section. So basically, if the Senators played every single team in every single week, they would have won 2 games. That's atrocious, and he should be ashamed of himself. But then the final game, Brutal Deluxe versus the Hong Kong Cavaliers. 2 of the 3 of Brutal's wide receivers totaled -1 points, but he was saved by Jermichael Finley's 3 touchdowns. Solid output from both Matt Hasselbeck and Freddie Jackson, who led him to the big win over Hong Kong. I understand that Coach Whiffen congratulated Coach McDowell the following Monday of the weekend. Coach McDowell seemed to take the gratuities well, but then apparently a little later on he started talking shit about Coach Whiffen and his team, which then made a little bit of trash talking going on. Now, as we look at the overall standings, we have 8 of the 12 teams at 2-1, so it's a bit of a clusterfuck. In the North Riverdale Division, the Amber Alerts are up at the top due to the points scored at 2-1. Yellow Peril at 2-1, Handy Quacks at 2-1, and the Riverdale Scoopers at 2-1. While Hunters just got that first win at 1-2, and Iron Dogs at 0-3. In the South Division, Bubblegum Shrimp at the top, big surprise, at 2-1. Soul Glow, Brutal, and Hong Kong all there at 2-1, while Negroes is at 1-2, and the Senators at 0-3. And taking a look at the pick'em standings, second week in a row that the team who was in the first place didn't submit votes, as Hong Kong, Coach Whiffen, was tied for first place last week, but he was the only team this week that did not submit pick'em votes, so that obviously led to a new number one. Coach Jae Young Kim led the week with 5 of 6 correct selections, which boosts his ass up to the top of the leaderboard with a total of 12 wins. Brutal and Negroes are at 11. Bubba Gump, Handies, and Soul Glow are at 10, and the rest are trailing behind.
Now, let's take a look into the future with next week's matchups.
Now, due to a longer than normal introduction segment, due to the explanation of the new waiver process, we're actually going to skip the Dynasty Power Rankings segment during this podcast. Please feel free to go ahead and take a gander and read over Bubba's article, which is excellent as usual, which is currently up on the league site. Coach Glenn Stacy is featured on the Power Rankings picture. So feel free to take a look at that. And as you heard, we opened up the segment to take a look at next week's matchups. So let's go ahead and do that. We're heading into week 4, the 4th consecutive week of divisional matchups. The game of the week for the 3rd straight week, the Amber Alerts are the game of the week. The number 1 power ranked Amber Alerts. They're going to be taking on the reigning champion Handy Quacks. Both are Anna Maria College graduates. So there's that. That obviously makes a huge difference. Handy Quacks is 4-0 lifetime versus the Amber Alerts. So Alerts would really like to beat Handy Quacks. Handy Quacks wants to get another winning streak going, so we will all be looking at that game this week. Next game is the Yellow Peril versus the Riverdale Scoopers. Peril is they're both 2-1. A lot of people don't think the Scoopers are for real. I don't think the Scoopers are for real. But let's see, if Scoopers can beat Peril this week, who the hell knows? Who the hell really knows? Next game, the Heritage Park Hunters versus the Iron Dogs. Hunters are now at 1-2. The Iron Dogs are still at winless at 0-3. They're still trying to find the cohesiveness between the two minds between Coach Jeff Gard and Coach Jerry Gard to get that first victory. Let's see if it can be done this week. And going over to the South Riverdale Division matchups, a couple of Game of the Week votes. Soul Glow versus Hong Kong Cavaliers. Soul Glow is 4-0 all-time against Hong Kong. So Hong Kong wants to get back on the winning ways, and Soul Glow, I believe, is 1-2 in a row. So let's see what happens there. Negroes will be taking on the Bubblegum Shrimp. They are both 4-4 against each other lifetime, so pretty even matchup between the two. And lastly, the 2-1 Brutal Deluxe, led by Coach McDowell, will be taking on the winless 0-3 Rockdalian Senators, still trying to get that first victory.
We have ourselves breaking news from the world of the Dynasty.
Brought to you by Jumbo Donuts.
Earlier within this podcast, I mentioned that I had a feeling that we were going to see a trade soon. Well, I got some breaking news here. We do have a trade, and it's pretty blockbuster. The Brutal Deluxe Rockdalian Senators have agreed upon a trade which will send Ray Rice to Brutal Deluxe, and in return, the Rockdalian Senators will be receiving a second-round draft pick in 2012. Wow. Holy shit. Brutal Deluxe got Ray Rice. Senators, fire sale time. Second-round pick. Interesting. Holy shit balls. And now on the Jumbo Donuts hotline, we got ourselves coach of the 1-2 Negro Damas, Era 1 Hall of Famer, Coach Phil Tamulus. Coach, thanks for joining us here today.
It's my pleasure to be on the podcast.
All the